Welcome back, new viewers and gamers. It is time for the final part to Unused Content in Gaming with Pokemon Black and White Unused Content, the final part to Pokemon Black and White Unused Content. And today we're going to continue and finish things off with unused graphics, unused text, as well as unused things down here. So let us begin, but before we truly begin, I do game content like this all the time. If that's your type of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. It's for free and you can always change your mind later on. Anyways, continuing with item icons. Curiously, the game contains icons for almost every item available since Generation 3, including key items from Fire Red Leaf Green through to Heart Gold Soul Silver. However, some item icons are completely missing due to a variety of reasons. The Generation 3 male icons were replaced with the newer but unused ones from Generation 4. Furthermore, several Generation 3 items were replaced by similar items from Generation 4. The Pokeflute, Secret Key, and Bike Voucher were replaced with the three Poketech coupons. The Whalmer Pail was replaced by the Spray Duck. The Pokeblock case was replaced by the Poffin case. The Lift Key was replaced by the Sweet Key. And the Magma Emblem was replaced by the Old Ghetto. The storage key seems to be missing completely. Nevertheless, there are also never before seen unused TM icons for every type except Bug, because Bug's just chopped liver. I get it, Bug sucks, so you don't have to include it. But anyways, in the final game, there are only normal flying and water ones, for strength and Cud and waterfall and surfly, etc. Fighting HMs existed in previous generations, literally just for Rock Smash, let's be real. So that tells us that either this could just be a placeholder for any time they wanted to have an HM move of a certain type. Either that or the less likely they intended to have HM moves for every single type in the game, which I don't think would have been that good, and people didn't like HMs to begin with anyway, so I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. Lastly, there are unused Wonder Launcher icons that resemble the items Max Elixir, Max Ether, Elixir, and Max Elixir. Most likely in case you ran out of power points in battle, which thankfully they didn't have that's not needed. Being unable to run out of that for that mode wouldn't have been very fun to deal with, especially against, say, PowerPoint stall teams. But anyways, here's some of the unused ones. I'm not going to go through all of them, just some of them. Since the HMs have this little tag thing there that we saw in the Gen 4 games. Makes me wonder where a ghost type HM would have been. Maybe to float objects into place? I don't know. Or that could have been Psycho. Who knows? Alright, here's unused Wonder Launcher icons. This one's for the Max Ether. This one for the Elixir. Funnily enough, no, not one for the normal Ether. Or I guess that was already used in the game? I don't know. I don't remember much about the Wonder Launcher. Never really used it. Back in elementary school or in current times, whatever. Alright, unused NPC sprites. The Delivery Man NPC used to deliver Pokemon obtained through Mystery Gift turns out to have a whole sprite sheet worth of movements, which is surprising to see how he only stands still after the Pokemon has been received, only to disappear once the Pokemon Center is exited and re-entered. And that's the case from Gen 6 to Generation 8 as well. All the walking animation goes unused, and so does the facing forward sprite, while the facing right sprite isn't normally seen. This character is spawning inside Pokemon Centers with his back to the flower pot in the lower left-hand corner. It is possible to see the particular sprite for if the player has a mystery gift waiting for them and come get it in the Pokemon League's Pokemon Center, which lacks the aforementioned flower pot, allowing the player to interact with the NPC from the left. Alright, here's a closer look at this. We're being turned in all different directions. Next up, unseen kanji fonts. Small kanji font was created for the game. It is technically used during battle if the player's name has kanji, but due to lack of kanji input ability, it goes unused. And here's what that looks like. We find having a Japanese name. Our debugging and testing graphics. Our graphics for some simple and unpolished text inputs menus are present in the files. These graphics and tile maps are present in both the Japanese, North American, and European releases. When put together, they look like this. So here's what that looks like. likely used for the different text when making like a Pokemon's a nickname or making your own trainer name. Alright, here's a closer look at that for the Roman alphabet. And keeping going with the other ones. Cat BS. I know that's short for backspace. I'm just being funny. Alright, sound test. There are also unused graphics for what looks like either one hell of a sound test or a whole sound mixer. Here's what that looks like. Seriously, imagine if this was in the final game. This is not organized at all. Alright, they have a single palette and 2 tile maps. These graphics are present in the Japanese, North American, and European releases. Camera test. There are graphics for an unused camera controller present, and here's a closer look at that. Placeholders. Within the ROM's data is a large number of unused image maps, which correlate to other unused images. Graphics for some kind of countdown. Here's a closer look at this. That looks very crude. A graphics map for debugging fonts. Here's what it looks like. Alright, this image appears 4 times in the ROM, and is a screenshot of an early version of Route 1. The tile set is different. Look how much the bush sprites covers the female NPC. There are no seasonal effects like the flowers and the flower petals flying across the screen during springtime, and there is no fence in the upper corner. Likely those haven't been implemented in yet, or the seasonal gimmick just hadn't been implemented yet. Also note that due to some transparency issues, the sprite of the male protagonists and the female NPC have black pixels where they should be white, making the player's hat and the NPC's eyes look unusual. Here's a closer look at Hilbert's hat as well as the NPC's ghost eyes. Oh my god, that's creepy. Honestly, you could show this image to somebody like with it zoomed in, it could make for really good jump scare material. And Hilbert has a hole in his head. Or maybe that's a really flat Pokeball. It's up to you to determine what that is. And here's what it looks like in the final game with all that in there. These graphics and associated tile sets were presumably used to test the transceiver layout for calls. Or with these horridly drawn numbers here. Yeah, an early version of the different screens for when the transceiver would play during the story, I guess, as the text states. Likely just to map out its layout. Remember making board games back in middle school out of construction paper, and I kind of would use certain tile sets. Kind of similar to this, actually, to make the final little tile sets where you play the cards or the board game on. But that's a discussion for another day. Now, these images found with the generic Pokédex skin were used as a temporary placeholder until skins were made. And they can also been there to test whether DLC-enabled skins would work by switching and debugging flags. I don't remember the game having DLC in it. When was that a thing? Pokemon Black and White with DLC? When was that a thing, huh? Anyways. Does exactly as stated. Found with Poké Transfer data. Alright, here's what that looks like. It's a dummy. A crude drawing of a Pikachu's face. Yeah, Pikachu's... No, I want to know what that Pikachu's smoking. He vibing, dude. Look at him. Anyways, that is saying Pika. A voice variant of Pika. With numbers underneath it. And here's a closer look at that. Maybe he's right next to an air conditioner. The white arrow might be air blowing on his back and he just thinks it feels good. I don't know. Anyways, leftovers from Generation 4. Several graphics and models from the previous installment still exist in the files, which isn't all that surprising seeing how Black and White were built on top of those games. Many of these were used in the numerous test prototypes leaked in 2024. And at the time of recording this, it's 2025. Found within the Wi-Fi connection screen graphics information, these images date back to Pokemon Platinum. It is unknown if the animations of these screens still exist. Maybe they were destroyed, who knows, but at least you were able to salvage them. Alright, a tile map containing overworld sprites from Pokemon Diamond and Pearl. Note that the proper palette to go with these sprites is not present. This is the best fitting palette. Alright, here's a close look of all these NPCs from Gen 4 as placeholders. Also a weird coloration too, like these weird pink hats. The Japanese logo for Diamond and Pearl, along with their respective title screens, were left over in the game's files. Closer look at this. Leftovers from the Center Underground mining minigame, which is now not present in Black and White. It could just be a placeholder for it, but maybe initially it was going to be available at some point. Or maybe changed up even. Probably like judging by the fossil NPC in Twist Mountain in the post-game. Which I guess I completely forgot to go over that during my Nuzlocke, but far too late now. This was likely going to be used in Twist Mountain at some point, which is my guess, since from that NPC one today, you can get a random fossil from any of the fossil Pokemon from Gen 1 to 5. Well, Gen 1 to 4, actually, because Gen 5 fossils couldn't go those, and Gen 2 doesn't have fossil Pokemon, so yeah. But I have a feeling that would have been initially used in Twist Mountain as a post-game content. But anyways, the 3D models for both Palkia and Dialga, or Dialga and Palkia, whichever, which were used in the top screen of Diamond and Pearl, respectively, but ended up unused in this game. As we saw in the previous episodes, just used as placeholders until they got the real title screens that they wanted for Reshiram and Zekrom. Especially the one for Reshiram, since that was used first. Alright, that's enough for unused graphics. Next up, unused text. From this point on, we begin to miss the battle frontier. Yes, I know, we all loved both the Emerald and the Gen 4 battle frontier. Alright, unused dialogue. You haven't seen a Clink yet? Still, that's a great Pokedex. This is actually supposed to play in Mistralton City when you walk up to Cedric Juniper, Professor Juniper's father, saying that you have a Clink, and because you literally just fought N who has a Clink in his party, this text is never seen. So if you somehow use like walk-through wall cheats or bypass the end fight in Chargestone Cave, this text can actually trigger. This line would be said by Cedric Juniper in Mistralton City. If the player doesn't have a Clink registered as seen in their Pokedex, replacing the used line after having seen a Clink. But as Clink appears in a mandatory battle against N before this point, it can't be seen in-game without hacking or using walk-through walls glitches, all that stuff. Unused location names. Mystery Zone. Like in Gen 4's games, this placeholder name can be found among other location names. This time, however, it's not assigned to any map header at all. Alright, as seen in one of our previous episodes, there was another unused area alongside near the Dream Yard, Challenger's Cave, etc. Alright, unused event locations from the different maps that we went from the different movies. There were going to be other locations. I probably some that came in later generations, like Gen 6 and 7 movies, apparently. And it's just here. Either that or it could be placeholder text, who knows. So let's read this whole list here. Or if you want to pause as usual, don't hesitate to pause to read the text. Alright, the list of the Met locations includes some that are never used because they were meant to be used for event Pokemon distributions. That never happened. Most of them were likely included for future proofing. However, some entries stand out. Pokemon DW refers to the Dream World, and now an inaccessible service, since all Pokemon obtained through Global Link or the Dream World are always encountered in the entry forest. This meant locations is either redundant. This met location. Furthermore, Pokemon Ranger and Ranger Union imply that the games were originally planned to be compatible with Pokemon Ranger games in some way. Alright, unused weather text. Fog crept up as thick as soup, just like the fogs in the area in Gen 4, or in Sinnoh. The fog lifted. The sandstorm rages, which could have been used for Route 4, but somehow went unused. The hail crashes down, which could have been used in wintertime during Twist Mountain or in Dragon Spiral Tower during the wintertime, around that area. Several lines of unused weather effect text appear within the internal data of Black 2, and White 2. Notably, quotes for fog exist within the text, implying that fog and functionality was planned to exist in Black and White. Thank the Lord it wasn't, because fuck that shit in the Sinnoh games. And when I inevitably play a Sinnoh game on this channel, you'll see what I'm talking about. While the final game does include foggy locations, such as Route 15, and in the outside of Giant Chasm, The fog weather condition does not appear in battle like it did in Gen 4. In the Sinnoh game specifically, not Heart Gold Soul Silver. Again, thankfully. One of the reasons why moves like defog even existed in the first place. Thank the Lord they never brought that shit back. You can dismount your bike here. Some other unused text. Battle Castle Multi. Battle Arcade singles. I guess placeholders from the Sinnoh Battle Frontier. That also appeared in Heart Gold Soul Silver. Battle Arcade Double. Battle Arcade Multi. Possible leftovers from Heart Gold Soul Silver. Dummy message. Guess what this is? Whatever. Alright, some more text. If you like to read it, don't hesitate to pause. Alright, found within the files of the entry link is text for a fully restoring all of its Pokemon fully restoring all of its power points, or PP, for all moves at once, which can't actually happen in battle, and I don't think actually I think that can happen outside of battle, but not in battle. So I think this is linked to those unused Wonder Launcher items. Alright, Zen mode trigger, Zen mode ended. Don't retain Zen mode ability does not use a unique message in game, rendering these strings useless. Our draws don't appear anymore. Curse you, tiebreakers. Yeah, wait, draws existed at one point in competitive play? I don't remember that. I guess I got a bit more research to do myself. Anyways, shoot, it was so close too. In prior games, this message would appear if a wild Pokemon skipped from the Pokeball after it shook 3 times. In Black and White, the message, almost had it, appears instead. That message is used for 2 shake escapes in all other games since Gold and Silver. There are no 2 shake escapes in Gen 5. Never noticed that either, interesting. Such a small thing. This is found with the GTS text. They translate to delete and increase by 99, respectively. The mission to save yourself has started. You will return to your own world. Enter link stuff again, this time about saving yourself, no comment. Whatever that means. Our debug ROM stuff, judging from the initials DP, PT, and GS for Diamond Pearl, Platinum, and Gold Silver, may stand for, and Heart Gold Soul Silver, I guess, may stand for Diamond and Pearl, Platinum, and Heart Gold Soul Silver, respectively. Just the other DS Pokemon games before Black and White 2. Placeholder emoticons, oddly, the Japanese text for hello is in katakana, which is commonly used to transcribe foreign words into Japanese. The Korean text also means hello. Judging by other languages being present, other languages were also tested with this placeholder set. Alright, that's enough for unused text. And now finally, we've got some other unused things, such as the lock capsule. An event related to unused lock capsule event for Pokemon Gold Soul Silver is present in the game's code, but unused. The lock capsule was planned to be transferable to Pokemon Black and White using the relocator option in the main menu. After the transfer, it can be given to Mr. Locke in Castilla City, who will open it to reveal TM95 Snarl. Because this item was never distributed to Pokemon Gold Soul Silver, maybe Snarl was originally going to be in Gold Soul Silver instead of Black and White. Who knows? This event was left unused, and TM95 can't be obtained normally in game. This was later made available in sequels in Lost Thorn Forest, and the sequels in Lost Thorn Forest. Mystery gift text. Found a lock capsule. Will you take the lock capsule? The lock capsule is being transferred to relocator. Please wait a moment. The lock capsule was safely transferred. It was put away in the key item case. You have already received the lock capsule. And the text for opening it. Alright, some other text over here. I'm not going to read all of it. If you'd like to pause to read it, go on ahead. I'll give you a second to do so. Let's go down here. Talking to Mr. Locke again afterwards. Even though I opened the lock case, I can't unlock a closed heart. I am a sad clown indeed. Oh, you can if you just use a purifier from the GameCube games, I'm just saying. A locked heart means they're a shadow person. But whatever. The event is still fully functional and will work perfectly if a lock capsule is hacked into Heart Gold Soul Silver somehow, then transferred using the relocator. Alright, here is a video of that happening. Alright, I can see the video is 5 minutes. We're not going to look at the whole thing, of course. Just a part of it. Alright, here's the original sprite for the lock capsule. That's seen in Heart Gold Soul Silver. If you paid for this, you got scammed. Okay, dude. Still so nostalgic seeing the old DS screen. What am I talking about? I still got my DS on. I can see that at any moment. At any time. Alright, this would have been transferred via download play, just like the Celebi and Zorua event back when Black and White first came out. And when that Celebi event first came out, about 2 weeks prior to it, at least where I live, back in 2011. Still remember doing that around my 9th birthday back in elementary school. Alright, those are being transferred. And now we're in Pokemon White, with Heart Gold on the other side. Alright, here's the player in Castelia City. Let's just skip that little animation, make things a little faster. I gotta talk to the Harlequin clown up there. Next, if we open with permission. Or precision, I thought he said permission. Alright, TM95 Snarl, which you can't get in the final game. Even though it's a fully functioning event, makes me wonder why it was never released. Alright. The capsule found by the relocator. Let's have a closer look. Found a lock capsule. Will you take the lock capsule? Yes, why would I not? And all that for actually a pretty decent TM and doubles, from my experience. Have the lock capsule in the inventory in Black and White. Almost looks like a book bag, weirdly enough, with a little pump on the top of it. Alright, obtaining TM95 Snarl. Dark type spread move, base 55 power, and 95 accuracy, which will lower the special attack by 1 stage of anything that it hits. For those who might have already known, not already know. Most ribbons that a Pokemon can have are only obtainable through transferring Pokemon from older generations or by obtaining a Pokemon with special ribbons through events, even though most ribbons are used due to this. A handful of ribbons were never released. The Record Ribbon, Special Ribbon, Regional Champion Ribbon, National Champion Ribbon, World Champion Ribbon. Well, those last 3 obviously being for competitive play. Replace the Land Ribbon from previous generations. This ribbon has not been released in any game to date. Huh, that would have been cool actually. Anytime you win a regional, your Pokemon that you brought that regional national event to or World Championship to would have gotten the ribbon. That would have been so sick. And I bet those type of Pokemon would be insanely rare if given away. But oh well. Replaces the Sky Ribbon from the previous games. This ribbon has not been released in any game to date. I replaced the Red Ribbon from Gen 4. And Event Ribbon with this ribbon was distributed in Generation 7. Interesting. Maybe one of these days I can get one of those ribbons if I ever win any of these championships. At the time of me making this video, I haven't done any of those yet. But I will be, mark my words. Alright, the only leftover ribbon that remains unused, as it's grouped with other memorial ribbons. It has been intended to obtain this ribbon without the need of events. This ribbon has not been released in any game to date. It finally replaced the blue ribbon from Generation 4. Event Pokemon with this ribbon were first distributed in Gen 6. Alright, next up, some unused audio. Similar to Diamond and Pearl, there are placeholder music tracks that consist of ascending notes, and here's what they sound like. Alright, next one. Next one, our final one. Alright, these are called this code here through to this code here, respectively, with 03 and 04 sounding like each other. Alright, unused sound bank. These are unused sound banks for this huge code here that contains all instruments used throughout the game. This might have been used for the composition of the game's music. Our regional differences. Region lockout. The Japanese version of Black and White is region locked, so it'll only play if used on Japanese region Nintendo DSi's or 3DS systems. And though the game still works on original Nintendo DS system from any region. The international releases are non-region locked, however, so they can be played on any DS, DSi, or 3DS, regardless of system region. Well, that's one thing that Nintendo tends to do with their later consoles. Region locking them is something that other game companies like Sony and Microsoft wouldn't do, at least from what I know. And here's a closer look at the Japanese cover, or the Japanese title screen, and here's the international one. Online battle names. The in-battle name for online play differs between languages. With English Online, Japanese Wi-Fi, German WLAN, French internet in all caps. I mean, most of them are in all caps, I guess, besides Wi-Fi. Spanish and then yeah, Italian online and Korean Wi-Fi as well. Uplisted City Gym Glitch, Uplisted Gym Surf Glitch. In the Japanese version of the game, it is possible to surf onto a dragon tail on Uplisted City, or in Uplisted City, similar to the surf glitch in Diamond and Pearl. Probably carried over because of sharing similar code to the previous game. By opening the menu and selecting surf, tapping the player. If the game is saved in this spot, the player will be trapped, and without hacking, they will be forced to start a new game. The glitch was fixed in the English version, which disallows surfing on the tail by any means. Alright, and I'll leave that in the description for everyone who might be curious to see that. And it would kind of suck to make it up to the 8th gym just to do this glitch and then your whole game resets. That's so bad. Lost all that time and for what? Alright, Poison Touch. In the Japanese version of the game, a Pokemon with the ability Poison Touch, like say Toxicroak or Seismitoad for example, has a 20% chance of poisoning the opposing Pokemon when it uses a contact-making move, like say Drain Punch or Waterfall. This was changed to 30% in the international version. Thankfully it is, from 1 in 5 chance to just under a 1 in 3 chance, which definitely makes the ability a little bit better. Imprison. As in Pokemon Diamond and Pearl, the move Imprison displays a large X with Japanese character short for Fuin, the Japanese name for the move. In the Japanese version, for international versions, it was replaced with a large red wax stamp, a seal stamp graphic. You know what they would use for envelopes. I guess they only took that off of there just because, they don't like this region-specific stuff. It's the same reasons for these donuts are great with jelly-filled donuts in the anime. Or instead of a rice ball, you got a sandwich or something. It's kind of similar to that. Alright, Sea-Gear skins. A total of 32 Sea-Gear skins were distributed over the Pokemon Global Link. The Japanese version had 31 available skins. The European version had 25 available skins. And the American version had 22 available skins. Of course, we're the ones who get the short end of the stick. And here's a list of all those. Additionally, the text and logo of the Pokemon Center stores are removed from the Earful No Sea-Gear skin in the North American and European versions. Alright, I'll stop right over here for anyone who wants to read this for a bit. Okay. Our Pokemon musical downloads. 5 downloadable Pokemon musicals were distributed over the Pokemon Global Link. Only 3 were distributed to the Korean versions, while only 2 were distributed to the American and European versions. Alright, Japan and Korea. Distributed as part of a Pokemon Smash promotion. Japan and Korea again, with Meloetta in all caps and a couple of exclamation points and A's. Used to promote the anime short Meloetta's Moonlight Serenade. Never heard of that, I might try to look that up. Alright, and this one in Japan. It was distributed to commemorate the 10th anniversary of Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire. That's pretty nice. Alright, and just like the surf glitch, I can put that on here in the description for those who might be curious. Victini Battle Glitch. In the Japanese version, if the player talks to the event Victini and the game generates a shiny personality value, which is pretty rare and uncommon to happen since, very low odds back then. This was before the shiny odds boost in Gen 6. For Victini, then the battle won't start. This glitch was fixed in the North American and European versions. Had they not been shiny locked, this wouldn't have happened, but whatever. If Victini would spawn with a shiny personality value, then 0 times this number here, 1000000, or 10 million, I'm going to assume that is, I think that's 10 million, yeah, is added to its personality value to prevent it from being shiny. Got a little safety measure there. Alright, anti-piracy. The cartridges of Pokémon Black and White have a special infrared communicator that is used to communicate with other copies of the game that isn't found on regular DS cartridges. Since flashcards and emulators don't have this infrared communicator, the game will check the status of the infrared communicator at various points, notably when leaving the Pokemon screen, either to return to the overworld or check an individual Pokemon stats to determine if the game was pirated. If the infrared communicator does not respond, the player's Pokemon will be unable to gain any experience and the game will crash at random points. That's the way to go after anti-piracy. Not like what Nintendo's doing nowadays. But yeah. Some emulators are able to bypass the anti-piracy, and presumably by spoofing the infrared communicators when they check routine is called. It is also possible to use cheat codes to disable the check routine. Alright, next up, some design oversights. TM icons. In the Japanese version, while Retaliate is a normal type move, its TM icon is normally used for dark type TMs. And this suggests that the move is intended to be a dark type move, which honestly would have been pretty cool, but whatever. Rock Smash is a fighting type move, but its TM icon is the one normally used for rock type moves. This remains in Black and White 2 and was for some reason never fixed. Whatever. Alright, Route 7. In Black version, Tornado is placed on Ursa's cries when encountered on Route 7. Huh, never knew that. Alright, Nabasa City. The lights in front of the southern gate of Nabasa City incorrectly displays the protagonist's shadow underneath the light tiles, as opposed to above them. Strangely enough, this graphical error isn't present in the tiles next to the gate or the ones used in part of town where the arena is found. Dreamyard. The stairs on the top right-hand corner of the Dreamyard has a row of 3 tiles along its left side, which can't be walked on. None of the other stairs in the area have this issue, and its oddity was fixed in Black and White 2. Alright, Relic Castle. In the Relic Castle's the third lower floor, next to the sand pile on the top right corner, is a wall that appears to be incorrectly collision. That's a weird sentence, whatever. Allowing the player to walk inside the wall. The hole is 1 tile deep and functions like the regular floor in the area, namely allowing you to encounter Pokemon. Alright, some sprite errors. Pokemon has one hell of a bestiary, so more so than literally any other RPG franchise. So, of course, some mistakes managed to make their way in. For some reason, Arbok's front sprite lacks a tail segment, whereas its back sprite doesn't. Here's a closer look at that, though it's a little unnoticeable for me, personally. And here's what it looks like in the back. When there's so many different Pokemon, there's over 649 of these things, which you'd have to double that for both one for a front sprite and the other for the back sprite. So yeah, double the sprites there. Alright, for some reason, Arbok's front sprite lacks a tail segment, whereas its back sprite does. Doesn't. I notice how Slowbro, the shelter shell over here is missing an eye. It's pretty noticeable too. And here's the tile sets for it. So I guess they just forgot to put an eye on there. The second eye? Whatever. The shelter attached to Slowbro's tail is missing an eye, and as seen in its animated sprite. Note that the eye is indeed missing and not implied, or not simply obscured. Nope, it's straight up missing. Marowak can be seen holding a bone in its right hand in its front sprite, whereas in its back sprite is holding the bone in its left hand. Here's a closer look at that. Weezing's third gas chamber is attached on the back of its head instead of underneath it. This mistake was carried over from Pokémon Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, Weezing's sprite being based on the one from those games, despite the one from Heart Gold and Soul Silver actually being on model. And here's what that looks like. And I can put that in the link in the description as well for those who may be curious. Our Darmanitan Zen Mode sprite, Zen Mode lacks its back sprite, which were constantly shown in the anime, and later games starting from X and Y. Or back stripes. Not back sprite. How did I read that wrong? Alright, Kling's back sprite shows its upper gear on the wrong side, and as a result, the gears also rotate in the wrong direction. Closer look at this. Alright, Kling's back sprite shows its smaller gear on the wrong side, and also above this. This means the gears also rotate in the wrong direction. I guess someone was really bad at making rotating gear sprites from front or back. Alright, finally, Kling. Kling's back sprite shows its smaller gears on the wrong side, meaning once again, the gears also rotate in the wrong direction. However, the spike ring surrounding the gears does not affect and it rotates in the correct direction. Funnily enough. talking about the Clink Clang and Clink Clang line, I remember their voices in Poke Park too. Actually, quite cool. Those noises just stuck in my head all the time back in elementary school, and they still kind of do, even at this very moment. But here's a closer look at these sprites. Alright, with that being said, that is all of the unused content in Pokemon Black and White that I could find. 10 whopping parts to this little series. Ooh, this is by far the longest one of all the games I've looked at on this channel for unused content up till now. Who knows when that'll be surpassed, but hopefully it's not for a while. Oh man. But anyways, if y'all enjoyed this and you want to see more and you learned something new, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and consider answering the question of the day as usual. What's the unused content that you would have liked to see in the final game and why? Let's just say TM Snarl I would have liked to see obtainable in the final game when it really should have been, since it's a decently useful TM in doubles in my opinion. Alright. And tune in next time for the next unused content gaming where I'm thinking I'll look at a Mario game next. Tune in next time for that one. Anyways, thank you all for watching in this long little mini-series for the Pokemon Black and White unused content. And see you in the next unused content mini-series, and have a terrific day.